So while I bring you the presentation, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and keep on hitting your share button. And I want once more to welcome you and to say good evening to you. Good evening, Ambazonia. Fellow Ambazonians. French Cameroon elite have always wanted you and me to believe that there is only one Cameroon. Nothing, and I mean nothing, could be farther from the truth. Of course, you all know it, but I have come to you once more to appeal to the conscience of every Ambazonian to never forget there have always been two Cameroons. And do not be mistaken, we are not now just coming to terms with this reality. Rather, we are waking up right now to what looks like formal confirmation of what we have always known. You probably should be wondering why I say this now. Not to worry, I will explain to you. Last weekend, both in major towns and cities in French Cameroon and in the diaspora, a coordinated spate of public protests against Paul Biya culminated in the arrest and incarceration of French Cameroon MRC leader Maurice Kamto. Kamto remains in confinement as I speak to you now. But that is the least of our concerns here. What should concern us is the after effect of his arrest. It is in it that we see the clear demarcation between the two Cameroons, the kind of attention that both get when in a moment of crisis, such as the one concerning elections in that country and the war in the southern Cameroons. Through agitations, the demonstrations and the arrest of Maurice Kamto, we see how the world, the United Nations in particular, treats French Cameroon vis-a-vis the southern Cameroons. We see the value they place on each of the Cameroons. That is exactly what I mean. That's what I want to talk about. Fellow Ambazonians. After Maurice Kamto was picked up, the United Nations within 24 hours issued an official statement condemning his arrest. United Nations Secretary General himself is reported to have called Mr. Biya at least 6 times. Learning of the urgency with which the United Nations reacted over Kamto's arrest, one begins to wonder, who is Maurice Kamto? Who is Kamto that will be picked up? And within 24 hours, the United Nations will be issuing a statement. Kamto doesn't even qualify for the opposition leader in French Cameroon because his party has no parliamentary representation. But then, barely 2 days after his arrest, the mighty United Nations, which we have been told again and again that acts very, very slowly, issued a statement within 24 hours. But this is what I intend for you to take away from this narration or United Nations action, that there are indeed two Cameroons, and the United Nations sides with one and hates the other. That is the point. It is for real. If it were not so, if the United Nations didn't prefer French Cameroon to the southern Cameroons, can someone explain to Ambazonians why the other Cameroon massacres our people on a daily basis? They decimate our communities on a daily basis. kidnap and extort from our people. They occupy our schools with their soldiers, and the United Nations has never as much as issued a statement. How we understand this United Nations hypocrisy lies entirely in the treatment they give the French Cameroon leader, an unknown leader picked up, and because he hails from the privileged side of the Mongol, the side that dishes out golden status, the United Nations reacts with urgency. What an abject display of insensitivity, ladies and gentlemen. It is very much possible, it is very possible that the UN is part of the grand conspiracy to keep the southern Cameroons under the yoke of French Cameroon slavery and imperialism. The UN is an accomplice, and their actions speak for it. I give you some clear examples here. Matthew Lee of City Press, a United Nations press correspondent, was fired and banned from this position for asking interrogatory questions to the United Nations Secretary General about the massacres and the maiming in the southern Cameroons. As I speak to you today, Matthew has not entered the United Nations Correspondence Office for over 205 days because he mentioned the southern Cameroons. Our President Sisiko Julius Ayuktabe and cabinet were abducted from the custody of the United Nations in Nigeria and illegally moved to Cameroon overnight like criminals. The United Nations did nothing. Many more, over 70 other Ambazonians have been taken away from United Nations custody in Nigeria. They have been under severe torture ever since taken into said Gendarmerie basement in Yaoundé. In fact, one of them, whom we remember as Benji, was tortured almost to death. And as they thought he was dead, they secretly dumped his body by the roadside in Yaoundé for him to die. But thank God, he didn't die. He is still alive to tell his story. The United Nations has said nothing about these abductions and torture going on in underground detention bunkers in Yaoundé. They will not as much as use international conventions to send the International Red Cross or Red Crescent to visit the prisoners. We have written petition upon petition to the United Nations, carried out relentless protest rallies at United Nations headquarters both in New York and in Geneva. But not a word we have heard from them. But the French Cameroon, an unknown politician, is picked up, and for sure, because he is from the other side of the Mongol, immediate attention is focused on him. Why our people are slaughtered in Bafut and in the corner. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Ambazonians, I have said it again and again that we should not be fooled. But for God, we are essentially on our own in this struggle. But it is not surprising because imperial interest is at the core of this conflict, and the United Nations is acting essentially as an accomplice in the big conspiracy to keep the southern Cameroons yoked together forever with French Cameroon. And right now, something is cooking, something is brewing, and it is meant to bring an end to this revolution. However, without any independence for Ambazonia inside, so that generations of Ambazonia will forever remain slaves and beggars in French Cameroon. This is what it is. This is how the plot to end or bot the revolution looks like. This is the story. The days of Mr. Biya as leader of Cameroon have been numbered. There is now concerted effort being cooked up within the international community to take Paul Biya out as leader of French Cameroon. The international community, informed by the recent French Cameroon uprisings over the rigged elections and the arrest of Maurice Kamto, has concluded that if they do not step in now and get rid of Paul Biya, that the whole country will be engulfed in a bigger mess. They are pointing to Boko Haram in the north, rebels in the east of Cameroon and Ebolowa. Then you have also the Ambazonian conflict or war, and now their election protests and the rise of Maurice Kamto. The international community has figured out that if they take out Mr. Biya and bring in a new leader, such a leader has more chances, they believe, of initiating peace through dialogue and bringing things to normal in the country. But for us, Ambazonians, the problem in such an arrangement is that our struggle would no longer be seen from the prism of restoration. It shall just be bundled up. It will be bundled up just as one of Cameroon's internal crises. That is the problem. International partners, along with the French, have agreed to this plan. Mr. Biya is right now under very, very severe pressure to negotiate the terms of his exit from power. Of course, any such political maneuvers in French Cameroon do not concern us, but for the fact that we will then be forced by same international players to negotiate with French Cameroon's new leader, whoever he may be. They will ask that their new leader gives us a federation of 10 states, and that the leader would argue to persuade us that we can take back the country to 1961 because the country has grown in both population and in the dynamics, and that things have changed from what obtained in 1961. He will argue, the new French Cameroon leader will argue that a 10-state federation is the best arrangement to go with. The problem that will be inherent here is that French language will still be forced on us. We shall still have to go to Yaoundé to chase documents and appointments. They will still have the power to appoint governors, government delegates, divisional officers and mayors over us. They will still maintain ministers in Yaoundé who dictate what happens in our local institutions and communities. Sonora and all our companies will still be left paying taxes to Yaoundé and Douala. Their so-called regional councils or houses of assemblies shall be left answerable still to Yaoundé and not to the people. Anything or any form of federation with French Cameroon, ladies and gentlemen, cannot be acceptable to us, no matter how benevolent their new leader is. But the larger point I want to make here is that knowing what is at stake, knowing what lies ahead, we cannot wait any longer to begin to occupy our territories. They must begin to fall in a very rapid succession. If we wait until a new leader takes over in French Cameroon ours will have been a lost war and lost aspirations. The emergence of a new leader in French Cameroon will immediately see the international players exerting tremendous force or a tremendous push on us to dialogue with a new leader and to trust. They will say, just trust him and give him a chance. Just believe in him. It is the deadliest form of gambling that we do not even want to perceive at this moment. It is time that we begin to take and occupy every inch of territory in Ambazonia. It is an emergency. We need to do something and do it immediately. Should we fail to do this, ladies and gentlemen, all that we have fought for, all that our people have died for, remember those corpses in Bafut yesterday? Remember the ones in Moyoka the other day? In the corner? Bansok Kumbo in Bali? What about Pinyin in Batibo? Remember all of this? If we think that we should allow French Cameroon get a new leader and then we negotiate our exit or separation with him, we would have miscalculated very, very, very badly. No one has been born yet in French Cameroon who will say to the Southern Cameroons that they should go. No, that leader isn't born yet. We face a clear and immediate danger of losing this revolution or having it aborted without seeing a free and independent Southern Cameroons if we do nothing now, if we delay action. Ambazonians, listen to the sound of my voice and look at me in my eyes. I can see what lies ahead, and I'm pleading with you today. Let's take action. Let's do something, and let's do it now. But if you think we should wait until French Cameroon new leader gets in place and then negotiate with him, you are mistaken. It would be too late. It would be too late. No leader east of the Mongol, no matter how benevolent, will surrender Ambazonia on a dialogue table. That is the truth. They will never, never give it to us. Kamto said before his election that he cannot give it. We have to take it before they occupy us again. We have this emergency, and we all must stand up to the challenge. This is the moment. We must begin to take back at least some of our territorial space and land, without which we shall not have any leverage at all sitting on a negotiating table with a potential new French Cameroon leader. Fellow Ambazonians, maybe you are asking, but Secretary Chris, how do we do it? How do we do this? How do we go about this? My appeal is simple. First, every Ambazonian who cares that our people are being decimated must wake up. We should wake up, identify or look for our various counties or local governments to make a special one-time donation. Secondly, all Ambazonia cultural groups in the diaspora must donate something as corporate organizations towards their counties. And let me say this. In the diaspora, I do not know of any Ambazonian community that doesn't have a cultural community, a cultural group in the diaspora. You go to New York, you go to London, you go to Toronto, you go to Montreal, you go to Belgium or Brussels, you go to Berlin, you go to Bonn, you go to all these cities, you go to Italy, Spain, and all these places. Everywhere that we go, you find Ambazonian cultural groups, cultural communities. This is the moment. These cultural groups can no longer shy away from saying, we're a cultural group, we cannot donate to political activities. Please, we are first individuals. We are first a people before being a political or cultural group. Let us put the interests of our communities, of our people first. Every cultural group in every community in the diaspora must donate $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, depending on what you got in your account, to your immediate counties or local government areas. It is for the survival of your own same communities. Let this be done. It is an emergency. It's an emergency. Let us do this. Now, thirdly, and here is where the bulk of the responsibility lies. All county and local government administrators with their entire executive must right now launch national fund drives for their counties and local government areas. That means, for example, if you are from Manu or Bui and live, say, in the city of London, you step out, organize the people of Manu or Bui or the BLM or Fako, Kupe, Manuguba, Momo, etc., to come together and raise immediate funds for this emergency. And I really think that anyone in the community can do this. You don't need a call from any administrator to embark on this project. All that is important is that the money is raised and the funds forwarded to your county or local government leadership. We have, for instance, hundreds of thousands of Ambazonians in Belgium, in London, Germany, Scotland, France, Italy, Spain. What about Norway, Denmark, Swiss, New York, Boston, Ohio, Texas, Georgia, California, Maryland, the DC area, Michigan, how about Florida? Please, Ambazonians, identify your communities in these countries and cities. Bring them together and do fundraisers for your county. In this revolution, everybody cannot be in the government, in the interim government, or county administrator. But everybody can be a leader. And this is exactly how leaders emerge in a revolution like this one. Be the stand-up guy for your community and pull others along with you to respond to this emergency. Whether we like it or not, the responsibility to conquer our territories, our county, depends on each of the counties. Every county or local government area must embrace the race to free our territory. The boys have been fighting for the past 1 year with den guns. That era must be put behind us now if we want them to seize and hold counties. The idea is that everyone restoration fighter in every county must hold an AK-47. And another way to do this is for people in their counties to pair up. People in their country pair up. Say 2 or 3 people to an AK. 2 or 3 people to an AK. That was what I meant by one man, one AK. But the local government area or county administrators must be in the position. They must be in the position to administer the entire project in their respective communities. We do not want to empower or build warlords by acts of individuals buying AKs and shipping to smaller groups on the ground. No, we don't want that. Every procurement going to the restoration forces must pass through the county authorities. That is what one man, one AK is all about. It means every genuine Amba must carry an AK. Let's challenge ourselves in our counties to do this and save the revolution. And let's treat it as a matter of emergency, because the political tides may change sooner than later in French Cameroon. They may be having a new leader sooner than we expect in French Cameroon. We must not allow the international community, in the event of a new leader in French Cameroon, to impose on us what they want. Instead, we must take what we want. Thank you, and God bless you. May God bless this struggle. Short live the revolution. Long live the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. And good night.